They really made the worst Captain America movie, the one that stars a black man, during Black History Month? Do we not have shame anymore? But that's not to say there isn't joy to be found here, because there's really a lot of electric moments in this movie, but also a lot of really dumb ones. Either way, me and you, we gotta talk about it in full spoilers. That's right, I'm talking all of it. And I got you for 3 minutes of playtime. This is your final spoiler warning. You have been warned. I know my review was pretty damn negative, or at least people took it very negatively, or maybe I focused a little too much on the criticisms in my review. But you gotta remember, I gave it 2.5 or 5 out of 10. Right smack dab in the middle for me. And like I mentioned before, I feel like I'm always stuck between a rock and a hard place when I go into a new MCU movie, because on one hand, I really love comics and comic characters, but I also have this other love for film and filmmaking. I'm always gonna have a little bit of bias when it comes to comic book movies, and I still found a lot of enjoyment in Captain America Brave New World. But I had to be truthful to how this movie actually made me feel in the moment, and there was a lot to criticize. And no, I'm not changing my opinion on it. I am gonna rewatch the movie, but I doubt my opinion's really gonna change much. But let's talk about this damn movie, because honestly, there's a lot to talk about. So while this movie's called Captain America Brave New World, it really is just the Incredible Hulk 2. Not saying there's anything wrong with that, because I know there's a lot of people out there that really enjoy that first Incredible Hulk movie. Me, I'm mid on it. So I think that kind of hindered this movie a little bit, is relying on a movie that's 15 years old that had a bunch of recasts that also just wasn't that great. Package all that fun Hulk goodness and just have Sam Wilson be... Honestly, Sam Wilson is the villain of this movie, or better yet, the antagonist of this movie, because Harrison Ford's Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross gets the biggest character arc in this entire movie, and it really feels at times that it's his movie. I think it's cool that Thunderbolt Ross is trying to change. He misses his daughter. He just wants her to be proud of him. Once you get up there in age, you start realizing what truly matters to you. But can he ever really fully change? We quickly learn that that is not the case. Which brings me to the whole secret villain, the leader, and his plan, because I partly liked it, partly didn't like it, which is a good way to sum up his entire character in this movie. Design-wise, I get they were going for the more brainy look for the leader, but that head ain't big enough. We needed more head. And also, why didn't they give him his superpowers? That would have been way easier than having him invent his own version of mind control with that song. But I digress, because I do like part of his plan, basically to get back at Ross for keeping him locked up, even though he said he would let you out after he became president. Which again, Ross, you ain't really changing. From there on out, his entire mission and goal is to destroy his reputation and show the world who he really is on the inside. A giant, snarling red rage monster who should have had the mustache. I said it there. I said he should have had the stash. I thought this movie was Top Gun inspired. That don't look like Top Gun to you? But Ross's character arc gets wrapped up in a bow when Betty Ross comes to talk to him for the first time in a long time, and they kind of reconnect for a little bit. And I get it. For the movie, it's supposed to be a nice emotional moment for a daughter and father to reconnect. But the problem is, you're reintroducing a 15-year-old character that nobody gives a shit about. While I do think it's cool that, oh, look, they're grabbing characters from this movie from 2008 that everyone thought they forgot about, it just doesn't hit and land. Especially when you have her talking to a guy who's been recast. And listen, I get it. Unfortunate. And there's nothing you can do about that. But I just don't feel like these are the same characters. And it also doesn't help that that scene looked horrible. Those blue and green screens were ugh. Plus you had Anthony Mackie just looking at them while they're having this conversation, trying not to laugh. But when Bucky showed up to give Sam some advice, that shit really meant something to me. Best cameo in the movie, and I called it. I was like, Bucky has to show up in this, right? And it was such a great speech, because he said, Steve Rogers used to give people hope, but you give people someone to aspire to be. And I know on the surface that could be confusing, but it's because he doesn't have the super soldier serum. He's just a regular man that me or you could actually be. And don't get me wrong, I loved Harrison Ford's portrayal in this. He was one of the more interesting characters in this movie, but part of me is always going to be interested in what William Hurt's version of the Red Hulk would have been like, because he just brought a different type of aura to this character that truly just fits Ross. And the leader actually has some pretty cool scenes, like when he stopped that dude's heart and said, I'm the hero. That scene was genuinely chilling. Or even just every conversation he had. He sounded like a fucking problem. But my brother in Christ, that scene when he turns himself in, first of all, again, blue screens, green screens are holding on to their life. They look horrible. But then he gets arrested and it's just, oh my God. Why are you turning yourself in the first place, bro? I told you the head needs to be bigger, metaphorically and physically. But I guess it was all part of his plan to tell Sam about the multiverse, that it's coming. Which I get that Sam hasn't heard about this, but you know what would have been cooler? Him talking to Carol Danvers about this, or Doctor Strange and Wong. How about give us a post-credit scene that the Avengers are reforming? We know the multiverse is coming. And again, the scene just looks horrible. Blue and green screens. What did we do wrong? Joaquin Torres is my goat, though. You ain't even gonna see me say nothing wrong about him. We got a Mexican superhero in this bitch. And it's funny how they almost pulled a Rhodian Civil War on him. And look, man, I get it. This is in character with Captain America. Sam Wilson's Captain America. He was a therapist. But if I have to watch him talk down another villain to get them to agree with him again, I'm gonna fucking lose my mind. Did it once in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and he did it twice with both villains in this movie. Again, a nitpick, but honestly, what unironically would have been way better, instead of him saying, remember Betty, cherry blossoms. Look, I think if Betty herself showed up in this scene and said, hey, big guy, sun's getting real, or if she had just actually been there, that would have been a way better scene than her showing up at the raft at the end. Adamantium and Tiamat are basically just a backdrop for a fight, and they're only really mentioned in name, obviously alluding to some future stuff that's going to happen in the MCU. X-Men, Wolverine, Weapons Plus program. Hopefully we see more of it. This character was not even worth a protest. I'm letting you know right now, this character's barely in this movie. And she was They try to make the leader like Zemo in this movie, or technically he does end up winning. But for some reason, it just didn't really hit as hard as Zemo. But those fucking action sequences, though, oh my goodness. The aerial fight sequences in Tiamat Island on the, what is it, the Atlantic, the Indian Ocean, I don't know where, some ocean. They were going crazy, bro. They did not lie when they said it was Top Gun Maverick inspired. Bro, we had Sam Wilson skating, riding, a fucking missile. We had Sam Wilson riding a fucking missile. And of course, the main event fight between Sam Wilson and the Red Hulk was electric. Definitely worth the price of admission, even though it is kind of unrealistic that he would survive this. It makes a whole lot of sense in universe because it's almost exactly how Iron Man fought the Hulk. It definitely took some inspiration from this fight. There's a scene at the end when Joaquin Torres and Sam Wilson are having a conversation after he's been in the hospital for a long time, when you could tell, like, Joaquin is like, man, people look up to us. Like, who we are. No one would ever think we were able to be in this position that we're in. And I get it was supposed to be a big emotional moment, and you might have felt something. I'm happy for you, but I just didn't get any of the groundwork leading up to that, because you could tell they were probably alluding to being people of color in the positions that they are, but there was no groundwork for that laid. This movie could have had so much more to say. Not that it needs to, but I think when people say this movie feels empty, scenes like that are the reason why. So really, at the end of the day, man, Captain America Brave New World is just a huge mixed bag for me. Like, I think there's equally good amount of moments as there is bad. There might be slightly more bad moments, but it's truly like a 50-50 movie. If you love it, cool, I'm happy for you. I wish I loved it as much as you did, but I'll definitely be watching the YouTube highlights of this movie. This is a YouTube highlights movie. So on one hand, while this movie is action-packed and has some pretty thrilling moments, but at the end of the day, from a filmmaking perspective, it's a pretty ugly looking movie. Exposition riddled and not great dialogue. At least the characters are fun, but I can't do this all day.